call came at 7:40 in the morning while I was still in my bathrobe with a half-eaten piece of toast sitting cold on the kitchen counter. I almost didn't answer. My reading glasses were upstairs, my knees were doing that thing they do in November when the cold seeps in, and I figured it was probably a robocall about my car's extended warranty. I've been getting those for 11 years on a car I sold in 2014. But I answered, and the voice on the other end was my son's. Mom. A pause. The kind of pause that has weight to it. I need to tell you something. I sat down at the kitchen table. Not because I knew what was coming, but because something in his tone made my legs feel unreliable. Okay, I said. Tell me. Judith and I are moving. We found a place in Phoenix. Her sister's out there, and the job market is... He stopped and started again. We're leaving at the end of the month. I waited, because there was more. I could feel it the same way you feel a storm coming before a single cloud appears. Something in the pressure of the air. And Mom, I have to be honest with you. Another pause. We're in a tough spot financially. The move costs money. The first and last on the new apartment, the truck rental. How much do you need? I said. Because that's what I always said. That's what I had always said for 34 years. It's not exactly like that. I pulled my bathrobe tighter. Outside the window, a cardinal landed on the feeder I'd hung on the oak tree the year my husband passed. I watched it for a moment. Then, what is it exactly like? I asked. And he told me. He told me that 6 weeks earlier, while I was visiting my sister Rosemary in Chattanooga, the trip I'd been planning since spring, the one where we went to see the aquarium and ate too much banana pudding and stayed up past midnight talking about our mother the way we only do when we're together. While I was doing all of that, he had been busy. He had listed my car on Facebook Marketplace, a 2019 Buick Enclave that I paid for myself, that I drove myself, that had a little St. Christopher medal hanging from the rearview mirror that my husband gave me the year we got married. Gone. Sold. For $4,200 to a man in Smyrna. He had also gone through the storage unit I keep on Route 9, my late husband's tools, a bedroom suite that belonged to my own mother, boxes of things I hadn't touched in 2 years, but that I knew were there, that I thought about sometimes, in the way you think about people who are far away, aware of their existence, comforted by it. Gone. $140 at what amounted to a garage sale he'd organized without a word to me. And the lawn equipment, the John Deere riding mower my husband had saved for over 2 years to buy, that I still used every spring. $400. He told me all of this the way you might read from a list. Clinical, almost, like he was going over receipts. When he finished, the kitchen was very quiet. The cardinal had flown away. That's my property, I said. I know, Mom, but we really needed... That's my property, I said again, not louder, just clearer. You never used the storage unit and the car. I mean, you could get another. The car has your father's St. Christopher medal in it. Silence! I didn't know that was in there. Of course it was in there, I said. Where else would it be? He started to say something about how sorry he was, how desperate they'd been, how Judith's credit cards were maxed and the security deposit alone was going to wipe them out. He used the word desperate 3 times. He used the word family twice, in a way that I think was meant to remind me that we were one, that my things were in some sense communal, that mothers help their children. I had helped my son for 34 years. I'd helped him when he failed out of his first semester at UT and needed a second chance. I'd helped him when his first marriage fell apart, and he moved back home for 14 months and ate my food and watched my television and never once offered to pay a utility bill. I'd helped him when he started the landscaping business that lasted 8 months and left him with debt and a storage unit full of equipment. My storage unit, as it turned out. I had helped him, and I would go on helping him. That was not the question. The question was whether he had any idea what he had done. I'll call you back, I said. Mom. I need a few minutes, I said. I'll call you back. I hung up. And then I sat at my kitchen table in my bathrobe with my cold toast, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The way you have to sometimes, the way you can't skip or rush through. The betrayal of it. The casual assumption that what was mine could be rearranged to suit his needs without a phone call, without a conversation, without so much as a text message. I thought about the St. Christopher medal. My husband had pressed it into my hand the morning of our first long road trip together, before we were even engaged. "For safe travels," he'd said. I'd carried it in every car I'd owned for 31 years. My son had sold it to a stranger in Smyrna for $4,200. I gave myself 20 minutes. I cried for about 4 of them, which is my limit. Then I got up, washed my face, and made a fresh pot of coffee. And I started making phone calls. The first call was to my neighbor, Bev. I've known Beverly since 1987, when she moved in next door with her husband and a 3-year-old and a moving truck so big it blocked the entire street. Her husband has been gone almost as long as mine. We have walked through most of the hard things in life together, and she is the one person on this earth who will tell me the truth, even when I don't want to hear it. "Tell me I'm not crazy," I said when she answered. She let me talk, all of it, start to finish. She didn't interrupt except once, when I told her about the bedroom suite that had been my mother's, and she said a word I won't repeat here. "You're not crazy," she said when I finished. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm going to do something." "Call Ted," she said. "Ted is the son of a man my husband used to fish with, and he's been a family law attorney in our county for going on 20 years. He'll know what you're looking at legally." I hadn't thought about legal. I'd been thinking about the conversation I needed to have with my son, the reckoning that I felt in my chest like a stone. But Bev was right, as she usually is. "I'll call him," I said. "And Eleanor," she added. "Call Eleanor is my financial advisor. She's based in Nashville, and I've been working with her for 6 years, since my husband died, and I found myself at 63 having to understand the finances of my own life for the first time. My husband had handled most of it. He was good with money in the way that some people are just naturally organized. I was not. After he died, I sat in Eleanor's office and told her I didn't even know how many accounts we had, and she was kind enough not to look horrified. I called Ted first. He asked me a lot of questions I hadn't thought to ask myself. Were the items in my name only? Yes. The car, the storage unit, all of it in my name. Did my son have a key to the storage unit? He did. I'd given it to him 2 years ago when I thought I might need his help moving some things. Did he have access to any of my financial accounts? No, I'd never added him to anything. Ted said the word conversion, as in conversion of property, which in plain language means someone took something that wasn't theirs to take. He said what my son had done, selling property that belonged to me without my knowledge or consent and keeping the money, could constitute a crime. He said the word criminal twice, calmly, the way attorneys do when they want you to understand something without making you panic. I wrote everything down. Then I called Eleanor, and this is where things got interesting. Eleanor had been thinking about my financial picture for some time. She'd raised the subject once before, gently, in the way she does when she's concerned, asking about my estate planning, whether my documents were in order, whether I had thought about the house. The house is the largest single thing I own. We bought it in 1989, my husband and I, for a number in a monthly payment that would seem laughable now. We raised our son here. I've repainted the kitchen twice and the living room 3 times, and I know which step creaks in the dark and how the light comes through the back window in October in a way that makes the whole room look like something out of a painting. "I need to ask you something," I told Eleanor. "If someone were to try to sell my house without my permission, is that possible? Could it happen?" She was quiet for a moment. "Not without a forged deed or power of attorney," she said. "But Ruth Ann," she paused, "is that a concern?" I told her what had happened, what my son had taken, what he'd told me, the move to Phoenix, the financial desperation. I think, Eleanor said carefully, we should talk about what you want to protect going forward. She had suggested a revocable living trust a year ago. I'd said I'd think about it. I hadn't thought about it. The way you don't think about the things that feel too far away to be urgent. Let's do it, I said. I can have the documents ready in 2 weeks, she said. Is that soon enough? I thought about Phoenix. About the end of the month. About a man in Smyrna driving around with my husband's St. Christopher medal in a car that used to be mine. Make it one, I said. Now. Here's what my son did not know. He did not know that I had already changed the locks on my house the previous spring, not because of him, because of a strange coincidence involving a lost key and a conversation with my neighbor's locksmith cousin at a cookout. I meant to give him a new key and simply never gotten around to it. He did not know that the storage unit had been transferred to Bev's name 2 months earlier, when I decided to simplify the auto pay situation and asked her to take over the account as a favor. The lock was still the same lock. The key he had still opened the door. But his name was nowhere on that unit, and mine wasn't either. He did not know that my car, which he had sold to a man in Smyrna, had a lien on it from when I'd refinanced it the previous year to take advantage of a lower interest rate. The title had never been fully transferred to me outright, not in the clean way that would have made a private sale straightforward. The man in Smyrna did not, in fact, own my car. He had paid $4,200 for a vehicle he could not legally title in his name, and when he found out, he was going to be very unhappy with whoever sold it to him. And he did not know, my son did not know this, that I had spoken to Ted, who had spoken to the county sheriff's office, and that a deputy had very politely and very quietly gone to visit the man in Smyrna to explain the situation with the title. The man in Smyrna was cooperative. He wanted his money back. I called my son back that evening. He answered on the first ring. I could hear tension in it, the way he used to sound as a teenager when he knew he'd done something wrong and was waiting for me to find out. Mom, I've been worried about you. I've been busy, I said. I really am sorry. I know I should have asked first. Things got out of hand and I made a bad decision. Several, I said. A pause. Yes, several. The man in Smyrna would like his money back, I said. Silence. A longer one. What? The car had a lien on it, I said. Silence. A longer one. What? The car had a lien on it, I said. You can't sell a car with an open lien. It's not a valid sale. He's been contacted by the sheriff's office. I kept my voice even. This was important. This was not about anger. Anger was what I'd done alone in my kitchen for 4 minutes on a Tuesday morning. This was something else. You're going to need to return the $4,200. Mom, that money is gone, I know. I imagine that's a problem. He said nothing. The storage unit, I continued, was not in my name when you organized that sale. It was in Beverly's name, which means you sold property from a storage unit that you had no legal connection to whatsoever. More silence. Ted has a name for what that is, I said. He also has a name for what you did with the furniture and the mower. The law has names for these things. I want you to understand that going forward. Are you, Mom? Are you going to press charges? I thought about that. I had thought about it a great deal, actually, over the past week. Bev and I had talked about it over coffee. Ted had laid out the options with his usual calm precision. Eleanor had not weighed in because it wasn't her department, but I had a feeling she would have had something to say. The truth is, I had thought about my son at 4 years old, sitting in the bathtub, making a fort out of a washcloth. I had thought about him at 12, standing at the edge of the school gymnasium at his first dance, looking terrified, and how I'd wanted to walk in there and stand beside him, but had stayed in the car because that's what you do. I had thought about all the versions of him I had known. The sweet ones, and the careless ones, and the ones that broke my heart quietly, and the ones that broke it out loud. And I had thought about the St. Christopher medal. I'm not going to press charges, I said. At this time, I heard him exhale. But I want you to listen to me, I said, and I need you to really hear what I'm saying. I'm listening. What you did was not a gray area. You did not make a poor judgment call. You did not act impulsively in a moment of stress and cross a line you didn't see. You looked at what I owned and you decided it was available to you. You decided my things were resources you could access because you needed them, and I wasn't there to say no. I stopped. That is not the relationship I thought we had. He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller. I know, he said. The items from the storage unit need to be replaced. The monetary value, Ted has the figure. I'll have him send it to you. I'm not going to chase you for it, but I want you to know that I've documented everything and it's in writing. I paused. And the metal. Mom, I want you to contact the man in Smyrna. Not about the car. Ted's handling the car. But I want you to ask him, personally, if the metal is still in the vehicle. And if it is, I want it back. A long pause. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, Mom. And I need to tell you one more thing, I said. I've done some estate planning this week. My house, my accounts, my assets, they're in a trust now. I am the trustee. I've named Beverly as the successor trustee, which means that if anything were to happen to me, or if anyone were to attempt to access or transfer my property without proper legal authority, I let that sit for a moment. Ted would be involved immediately. He understood. I could tell by the silence. I love you, I said. That has not changed. It is not going to change. But things are different now. You made them different. And I think, going forward, we both need to understand that. We talked for a little while longer. He cried some. I did not, because I had done my crying and I was on the other side of it. He told me about the desperation, the bills, Judith's pressure, the way things had seemed to spiral. I listened, I even understood some of it. But understanding is not the same as excusing, and love is not the same as having no limits. The man in Smyrna did have the medal. It was still hanging from the rearview mirror. He mailed it back to me inside a padded envelope with a card that said he was sorry for the misunderstanding and hoped I'd be okay. I don't know if my son asked him to include the card or if he just thought of it himself, but I appreciated it either way. I put the medal back on my own rearview mirror. I drive a different car now. I bought it myself. A certified pre-owned Subaru from a dealership in Murfreesboro, because the Buick situation had become legally complicated enough that it was easier to start fresh. The medal made the transfer without trouble. My son is in Phoenix. We talk on Sundays, usually. The conversations are careful in a way they didn't used to be, and I think that's just what it is now. Some things don't go back to the shape they were in before. I've accepted that. Bev thinks I was too easy on him. She said so directly, the way she says things, sitting in my kitchen with her coffee. Not unkind, but not soft either. Maybe she's right. I've turned it over enough times that I've worn the edges smooth and I can't tell anymore. But here's what I know. I am 69 years old. I live in my own house, which is held in a trust that no one can touch without my knowledge. I have a financial advisor I trust and an attorney I can call on a Tuesday morning when I need someone to explain the law to me in plain English. I have a neighbor who has been in my corner for 37 years, and I have the St. Christopher medal back on my rearview mirror where it belongs. I told my son once, when he was little and had done something, I don't even remember what, something small, the way children's transgressions usually are. I told him that trust is not a thing you can borrow. You can't take it out and use it and put it back and expect it to be where you left it. Once you disturb it, it's disturbed. He nodded like he understood, the way children do when they want you to stop talking. I wonder sometimes if he thinks about that now. I know I do. I've thought a lot about cause and effect since all of this happened. not in some abstract philosophical way, just in the plain, practical way that you think when you're sitting in your kitchen at 69 years old and you've just had the kind of week that rearranges things inside you. My son made choices. Not one, not two, a series of them, each one building on the last, each one requiring him to push past a line he knew was there. He didn't make those choices because he is a bad person at his core. I don't believe that. But he made them because at some point he had decided, without ever saying it out loud, that my things were softer than his needs, that my boundaries were the kind that bend. And here is what I've come to understand. That is something I had a hand in. Not the theft. That's on him entirely. But the assumption underneath it, the one that made it feel possible to him. I had been so available, so consistently there with an open hand, that somewhere along the way the open hand stopped looking like generosity and started looking like a guarantee. That's the part that kept me up at night. Not the car, not the storage unit, not even the metal. Though that one hit the deepest, I won't pretend otherwise. What kept me up was the question of what I had communicated over 34 years without meaning to. The answer I came to was this. I had taught him that love meant access, that because I loved him, what was mine was reachable, and I had to be honest with myself. That's not wisdom. That's not even kindness. That is a failure of clarity that I owed both of us a long time ago. Bev told me once, years before any of this happened, that the most loving thing you can do for someone is to be consistent, not permissive. Consistent. So they always know exactly where you stand and can build their understanding of the world on something solid. I thought I understood what she meant at the time. I understand it differently now. What I did in the week after that phone call, calling Ted, calling Eleanor, setting up the trust, changing what needed to be changed. None of that was revenge. I want to be clear about that. It wasn't punishment, and it wasn't strategy, and it wasn't a lesson I was trying to teach. It was something I should have done years ago for myself, because a person who knows her own value does not leave her life unprotected on the assumption that everyone around her will always act right. Resilience isn't just getting back up. I think it's also knowing, finally, what you're worth protecting. It's making the calls, signing the documents, having the hard conversation at the end without raising your voice. It's standing in your own kitchen, in your bathrobe, and deciding that grief gets 20 minutes and then you get back to work. My son is going to have to live with what he did. That is not cruelty. That's just how it works. The weight of a wrong thing doesn't disappear because someone forgives you. It stays with you. And if you're the kind of person who has any conscience at all, it teaches you something over time. I hope it teaches him something. I genuinely do. And the St. Christopher medal is back where it belongs. Some things find their way home.